it's Pastor Kim coming to you with a Friday devotion. These end of the week offerings bring to you a brief reflection on one of the readings assigned for the upcoming Sunday, but a reading that we won't be sharing during worship. So today we will look at a story from Genesis in which God calls Abram and Sarai to a life that they thought had long before passed them by. As with Noah, God makes an everlasting covenant with Abram and Sarai. He promises this old couple that they will be the ancestors of nations, though they have no child together. God will miraculously bring forth new life from Sarah's womb, and the name changes that happen in the story emphasize the firmness of God's promise. From Genesis 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, "I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and will make you exceedingly numerous." Then Abram fell on his face and God said to him, "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You shall be the ancestor of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you the ancestor of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and to your offspring after you." God said to Abram, "As for Sarai, your wife, you shall no longer call her Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. I will bless her, and moreover I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall give rise to nations. Kings of people shall come from her." The story of God's relationship with God's people is a story of promises fulfilled. We hear about God's covenant with Sarah and Abraham in today's Genesis reading, and about its fulfillment in the New Testament text we'll be reading in Sunday worship. Paul will remind us in his letter to the Romans that we are part of the multitude of nations that were promised to Abraham and Sarah. We are their descendants in faith. Kings of peoples descended from Sarah's offspring. That's who we are. Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, is Lord of us all through his death and resurrection. These Bible passages remind us that from generation to generation, God is steadfast. No matter how many ages pass or how often we turn away from God, God remains faithful. That is the great hope of our faith. No matter how often we stray or how great our sin, God persists in loving us. Jesus Christ binds us to God through our baptism into his death. In worship, especially through confession, affirmation of baptism, and communion, we continually remember the lengths to which God goes to keep covenant with us. The promise of salvation extends even into the future, as this week's psalm proclaims. Our children and our children's children will proclaim God's salvation to generations yet unborn. As you think about this Genesis passage I read just a moment ago, and as you listen to the readings during worship on Sunday, I hope that the words you hear will impress even more upon your hearts and in your minds that God is both a maker of promises and a keeper of those promises. No matter how long it takes for them to be fulfilled, God is steadfast and true. You can count on it, giving thanks that God reckons your faith in him as righteousness. That is good news indeed. Have a great weekend. See you Sunday morning as you tune in for worship.